I know, I thought that was great. I was like, I thought about referencing it, but I was like,
All right, everybody, we are live here. YouTube channel. This is what they're seeing.
Oh.
They're hear them. So, guys, this is Freethinker Radio. We're starting a little bit late. The music you hear in the background is So Below. These lovely people. Here, I'll put it on what they're actually singing. These lovely people here, and you can check them out. I'm gonna put the links below
Love the glasses.
if you want to see more about their music, and we're gonna play some of their songs. You can hear it right now. But we're gonna go to a break from you guys. I'll show you some of So Below's website on the screen, and what else you got? SoundCloud, things like that, Spotify. Yeah, so we'll put all
we got
that
a lot
good
of
stuff.
news coming up.
And we're about to get into discussing Iran, discussing
Police in Houston.
police shootings, and So Below's gonna hang out with us. So chill out. We'll be right back, guys. And let's go to this.
I can't wait to get that software. That's going to be so good.
What is it?
What's it called, Derek?
Split stream.
So what'll happen is we only started, after all this time of talking about it, we only started live streaming the HD show a while back. But at the end of the show, there's like 700 views, you know? So I'm like, why pass up that audience, right?
Yeah.
But he found this other software that's going to let it go out on the page, the YouTube, multiple platforms all at the same time.
Yeah.
So instead of just that 700, there could be like
YouTube,
800 here and just add it all up.
Mix it all together, so you don't have to like try to get everything individually working.
And then if people are sharing it, that's great. But it's already going out to.
Those are the nations of the world today. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by
Switch. Now our mics are on. That's on.
Hopefully have a minute or so.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes. Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's up?
If you're listening on YouTube, we
got
are
a half a mic
about to come back on. We got 33 minutes left in the show. As I said, So Below's still hanging out, and look, they're streaming on their Facebook. This song that we're playing now is So
He looks
Below.
good in the background.
You can find So Below on Spotify if you want to check them out, on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. We'll make sure to put those links.
Hey, this is the first time we streamed from the FM studio. It's a little different in here. I don't know if we'll have time to get into it, but
you won't be able to see Johnny today, but Johnny's over there.
There he is. You can see him. That's Johnny.
Oh,
you can do that. I was about to flush it.
he can't even hear you guys giving thanks.
We're here in the studio. We got about a minute or so. What are you going to cover, Micah? What do you got?
We got, like I said, the HPD story about Officer Goins, who is facing murder.
The Tuttle
charges.
shooting we've been telling you guys about since
he's in
January.
court for something else. There's been another Houston shooting. I've got some Fed news, but we only got a little bit of time, so that's what I'm hoping to cover.
All right.
What do you got?
Second Amendment, sanctuary cities. You guys heard me put a video out earlier today. We're going to get into that on the radio. So we'll be right with you. Stay tuned.
Radio
90.1 KPFT Houston.
We have moments.
Every now and then we're good. If you just tuned in, we've been hanging out with So Below, Houston's own So Below.
That was it. We're done.
We just heard, what was the second song?
Back Again.
Back Again and Wanders Away, brand new. Heard here for the first time on the FM airwaves on 90.1 KPFT Houston. Another first here on Freethinker Radio. We're really thankful for that. I don't think we mentioned though, guys, but tell everybody your websites and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can follow us at on Instagram.com/SoBelowTX. SoBelowMusic.com is where you can find a lot of our stuff as well. Facebook. We have a thing on YouTube. I think it's just type in so/below. You know, we do a bunch of covers and stuff. We do this thing called Fired Up Friday.
Yeah, and we made a cool little lyric video for Wanders Away.
Yeah, so if you want to learn the lyrics and
YouTube.
kind of hear a little bit more, it's a little interactive video. You can check that out.
And just like with KPFT, y'all know how social media works. So if you appreciate it as you can, because you know, one of my favorite things about the radio show is sharing music that I really love with friends. I mean, that's a part of life that I feel a lot of people get away from. But if you enjoy this music, you can shape culture. You do it whether you're conscious of it or not. So what if you actually, you know, picked up something that you discovered close to you that moved you? So
yeah,
thanks.
you know, just before we move on to all the important news we got, Micah, one thing you just said really kind of resonated with me. I was talking with some folks about this earlier. Is it seems like, I don't know what happened to social media, but it seems like people share less than they used to. Like, I feel like if you read something, like whether that's an article or you hear an awesome song, like I know I'm the kind of person that, like, I have to share this with more people. I want other people to know about this. I want people to find out about this awesome restaurant I went to or this awesome whatever, or at least notify my close friends. But it does seem like there's a lack of sharing. So if you're out there, like Micah said, you have a chance to shape the culture. Let people know that every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. they can hear uncensored news on 90.1 KPFT Houston. And, of course, we want you guys to chime in. Micah's about to get into some news. I got some news. We want to hear from you,
We'll
though.
be watching for those chat comments.
713-526-5738. And, yeah, we are live on YouTube at The Conscious Resistance.
What's that phone number one more time?
713-526-5738. 5738.
I'm going to get into some local real quick.
For it.
We got this happened on Thursday of last week. We don't know what's going to develop out of it, but it turns out that it's been another officer-involved shooting. An undercover police officer Thursday. It's an undercover officer. You know, it's always worse when it's undercover or secret informants or any of those shadowy things like that, right? So this undercover officer, member of the HPDs, shot a man who approached an unmarked pickup truck occupied by officers conducting surveillance, and the man reached inside a backpack saying, "I've got something for you." Yeah. You might not want to do that ever because see, we live in a very unfriendly world. He was standing outside the pickup truck. Maybe he wanted to give him a New Year's present. I don't know. He was standing outside the pickup truck when one of the HPD members shot through the windshield. We hear about this quite often, shooting through windshields. That's kind of frightening, right?
Yeah.
The man is currently in surgery, so we wish him the best and hope he survives.
This was in Houston?
Yes, police said the officer believed, and this is the one, they're always so scared. I guess we live in such a scary world.
They're not training these cops that they're so scared of everything.
Police said that they believed he was going to pull a weapon, but no weapon was found on the scene. Police, they had a weapon. They shot him.
Anything about him actually being a part of the investigation, or this is just
Nope.
walking down the street with a present?
Well, he had something in a backpack, and I think if he had any, like, let's assume he was a drug dealer. If he'd had that, they would have mentioned it in the article, I believe. But let's get a little deeper. The shooting happened at the 8,000 block of MLK near Belfort. The officer was working with HPD's crime reduction unit. He just shot an innocent man.
Crime reduction unit?
The man is the third person to have been shot by an HPD officer this week. On Monday, reducing crime.
Preemptive.
Well, we're going to see about this because we have an officer that's a criminal we're going to be talking about next, and maybe that's part of the crime reduction that they were after, maybe trying to catch some crooked cops. On Monday, an off-duty sergeant shot an armed robbery suspect who allegedly pointed a gun at the officer. That man, later identified as 30-year-old Kenneth Jefferson, was charged with aggravated assault of a public servant. Then on Wednesday night, an off-duty HPD officer shopping in a Walmart. Well, who doesn't want to shoot someone when they go there? Foiled an armed robber.
It's like I've been at Walmart too long.
So it sounds like 2 out of 3 involved some sort of victim crime, and one was just a guy out there offering presents to officers. But I got one other Houston to get into, and
so both those stories you mentioned: the off-duty officer shoot possible robbery suspect at Walmart, and then foiled robbery marks third shooting involving an officer. Just to make that clear to Brady, I'm putting those on screen for those who are watching on YouTube. These are coming from the Houston Chronicle. These are documented local news. And then Micah, this next one I think is kind of indicative of the larger problem.
Yeah, speaking of crime prevention, it turns out that Officer Goins, we've been talking about him for about a year now. And we didn't mean to. It just some actions happened. Turns out that
give everybody background on him for who he is.
Let's get into what just happened, and it'll start unfolding. Trust me. Turns out that he was just subpoenaed, Officer Goins, to testify in a hearing about Otis Mallett. Otis Mallett, that's not the Tuttles. No, it's not. But we have talked about this before on this show. This was a man who claims he was wrongfully convicted of what? Drug possession. Sounds like a pattern. Because Goins lied multiple times while handling the case. Mallett has spent years in prison for a drug crime that was based on evidence that Goins is accused of making up, according to Mallett's attorneys. Otis has been fighting this case since 2008.
10 years?
Yeah, 12. So it's fair to say he's getting pretty tired of being put through it. Initially, during today's hearing, Goins' attorney said her client was unavailable, having had surgery yesterday, but the judge in the hearing was not satisfied with the answer and instructed Goins to show up anyway. Wearing athletic clothing and a bandage covering his nose and mouth, Goins appeared in court at around 1 p.m., told the judge that he would plead the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination if called to testify, and was allowed to leave.
And this is a new case going against him, right? This is not.
Well, it's 12 years old, but.
But yeah. I mean, like as far as coming up, and because now he's under suspicion for all of his past cases, Officer Goins.
Yeah,
right?
I think they said thousands of them, right? 1,400 cases are being under review from him, not to mention.
And for those who haven't been following Freethinker Radio for the last year, this is one of the officers. We have 2 of them. Stephen Bryant, right? I think is the other one. Both of them who were involved in. They're being charged. They're the only ones being charged so far.
The Tuttle murder.
And the Tuttle murder, exactly, that we've been following since last year when HPD raided these Houstonians' home on a Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. And we found out later, they just like the last story, they fired out from outside the house into the building, into their home, killing Regina Nicholas after we were told that they were some kind of superhero rage, that they were that they tried to take the officers' guns and all those good things. That was all lies. So recently, at the end of 2019, 2 of these officers, Goins, the one Mike is discussing, and Stephen Bryant, were arrested, and they're being charged in that case. But at the same time, other people have said, hey, well, what about all their past cases? maybe none of those are legitimate. Maybe they lied about those too. And this man, Otis Mallet, is one of those people.
Yes.
I just saw a video, like one of those little now this thing, and it was an officer, like, serial planting drugs out there, like, consistently doing that. And when you look at these people who are being, you know, wrongfully accused, it's like, it's just torture. Like, you look at their face, they didn't do anything. They're like, I don't know what that is or where it came from, and you're about to get a felony. Like, the kind of person that would do that.
Well, you know, this seems to be a pattern with Officer Goins or something, because it turns out during the Harding Street raid that that's the raid we're talking about that killed Regina Nicholas and her husband Dennis, as well as their dog Star. It turned out that later, almost a year after the raid, it turned out that Officer Goins, had stolen guns in his car, along with drugs such as cocaine and methamphetamines and ecstasy, I believe.
Wait, aren't those illegal?
Yeah, so that showed up, and so if he wasn't shot in this total raid, he might have been able to plant that on someone. I mean, they already had the informants falsely accusing the Tuttles of dealing black tar, heroin, etc. So it was already a made-up drug raid that ended up in the deaths of these Houstonians. But it turns out that as we dig deeper, the car not only was full of more drugs than probably a lot of Houston clubs, but it was full of stolen guns. And then guess what else turns out? That in 100% of what they call these no-knock raids that Officer Goins had been a part of, in 100% of them, he claimed there were illegal guns. Yet in none of them were illegal guns recuperated. So he would claim these illegal guns, like so they could go do the kick-in raid or whatever, be worried about their lives because these people have illegal guns. So we got to come through the doors with not even in uniform, not even with body cameras, and guns blazing.
So just give them the justification to go in there in the first place.
If you would plead the fifth, because what do you say about that? What do you have to say about that? Like, what kind of person does that? You're a monster. You're a monster if you plant drugs on innocent people and you're arrested.
Well, you know, unlike the Tuttles, before he faces any penalty, like they were executed. So unlike them, he's getting a day in court. Okay, and it's kind of
the guy
crazy.
the guy who is a part of the elite squad who goes into people's house, breaks into their home unannounced, not wearing officers' clothes, shoots them and kills them, gets a day in court, while those people are dead and their family's been told that they were druggies, and now this other guy's been sitting in jail for 12 years.
Relentlessly told in the media that this family was one of the phrases. They were
well, they called them scumbags.
Yeah, that's it.
They called them scumbags, and they said that they were dealing heroin. And the mom, we've said this before, but just as a reminder, I went to one of the press conferences, and their mom, she's from Louisiana, Regina Nicholas's mom, who is one of the two people killed that day, she said that she's 86 years old now, and that her only hope is to live one more year at least to live to see her daughter's name cleared, because they've dragged her daughter's name through the mud over the last years, claiming that they had weapons. And we've gone over this so much on the show, but the reason we do is because there's not so many people who are, they might tell you when there's an update and kind of, hey, here's a little, but we're trying to get you to understand the importance of the bigger implications of what this means for Houston police.
Aspects of it. We could take more than one show on just the total raid, and I think we probably have. But since he's in court, Officer Goins is in court for some of these past cases, that's why it comes up. I also think that it's important to look at it because if it's happening here, and we have listeners all over the world on the Conscious Resistance and the other networks, but I do think that if it's happening here in Houston, if you're in LA, similar things may be happening. If you're in Pittsburgh, if you're in Chicago, any of these things,
it's definitely happening in Chicago.
And one of the things that piqued our ears right away was the way immediately after it, the not the police chief, but the head of the policemen's union. So why I'm pointing this out is because the police chief is sort of political. He's appointed by the mayor. He's not elected or anything, but he's got a sort of political thing. This other guy, the head of the policeman union, obviously appears to have authority. He's the head of the union. He's a long, been an officer for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. So they put someone who seems to have power like that out there on the media, and he's saying, don't let us hear you talking bad about the police with this. We have your number, right? And this sort of thing.
And threatened to find people on social media
immediately after the Tuttle murders. So it was, I think, with that much coming out saying, don't talk about it, be quiet, don't talk about it, be quiet, people naturally wondered, And I think that's something to take away from this story and apply to anything they come out telling you don't wonder about.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump into another one, Micah. We're down to the last 15 minutes here or so on Freethinker Radio. Again, if you want to call in to talk about the Tuttle Raid, Officer Goins, HPD violence and shooting, or if you would like to talk to Sobolo or talk about the story I'm about to cover, the number is 713-526-5738. And we always enjoy having callers from the listeners because that's a growing movement. And what's happening is local bodies are saying, like, say, for example, on the county level, they're passing resolutions saying we will not enforce what they consider to be unconstitutional gun regulations, gun control in Virginia, because the Democrats in Virginia recently took control of the state house. So now they're promising gun measures ranging from universal background checks, a ban on certain weapons, and the controversial red flag laws that we've talked about here, where people can literally just call on you and say, hey, Ryan's having a bad day, and I know he has guns, and then the cops can show up and then take them from
Goins
you,
will come over
or lock you
gladly.
up in a mental health institution for a week or something, and then okay, you're good to go.
I'm kind of watching something the other day, the Shutter Island. Ever seen Shutter Island?
I have not.
It's about this, like, as soon as they, like, start declaring you, like, crazy, like, anything that you say is considered crazy. So it's like if someone starts saying, hey, well, Ryan's having a bad day or whatever, then everyone starts assuming that you're going to go around shooting people or something like that.
And that's kind of what red flag laws are. So we've been keeping an eye on that. And so some of those changes might be coming to Virginia. In anticipation of that, we're seeing these Virginians, particularly this organization called the Virginia Citizens Defense League. And so far, this is a pretty crazy number, Micah. There's 95 counties in Virginia, and 86 of them have passed Second Amendment sanctuary cities. The state governor and some of the representatives are saying, this is just the gun lobby trying to stoke fear. And they already claimed, the Virginia attorney said
It sounds like it's more than the gun lobby. If like all these people, all these counties are. I mean, that's not the gun lobby.
Yeah,
that's the
well,
counties.
that's what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
But so, and the Virginia state attorney, Mark Herring, he said it's not going to matter. These have no legal effect. So he's basically saying you can do whatever you want.
What do you expect? They don't care about the Constitution. So
well,
why
it
would
seems
they care
like
about that?
they feel like, and this is to me is the bigger picture, is like we have to realize that the United States, for whatever the flaws of this experiment, was centralized, where some states can do things this way, some states can do things this way, and even down to the local level.
Probably the most minarchist society in a really long
I would say so.
problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, guns have been around for a long time. This phenomenon, or at least the focus on it, is.
Well, and I'm going to make this last point, and we can get to the bigger picture. But for those who say, okay, that there's nothing going on in Virginia, this was just introduced last week. Delegate Dan Helmer introduced House Bill 567, which would prohibit indoor shooting ranges in any building not owned by the government.
Huh?
There's shooting ranges out there right now that if you're legally own, you legally own a gun, you can go there and practice shooting in the range. But this bill would make it that any ranges would have to be either owned by the state of Virginia or by the federal government. And to be exempt from this. Well, yeah, they know who's getting good, but it goes even worse than that. In order to be exempt from this, your range would have to either have fewer than 50 employees working in the building, because they say letting people come into to practice gun shooting in a building with lots of employees naturally leads to mass shootings, is what the argument is.
We can't let people get together with their guns, is what it's starting to sound like.
So you either have to have less
How
than...
many people have raided armories in the past, decade?
We got to call Johnny. I'm sure people...
Just a shout out. Let's put her on. Hello, you still there? Hello, caller?
I'm still out there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can y'all hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
You're live on air.
I just want to tell hello that I love y'all so much.
Hey,
thank
That's
you.
good stuff.
Thank you.
We love you
Ever
too.
since I've met y'all been nothing but positivity, and y'all brought so much love to my life, and I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for y'all. I just have to tell y'all so everyone can hear. I want everyone to know.
I want to start crying.
Aw.
It's so
Sweet.
sweet.
Thank you so much for the call.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Love you.
Thank you. And to the listeners who may be watching
That's such a little
on
magic moment.
YouTube, they can't hear the phone calls, but we just got a lot of love for So Below. Just to wrap this story up, though, so again, this House bill bans indoor shooting ranges if they're not owned by the state or the government. You can only be exempt if you have less than 50 employees, and then this is the other kicker, or if 90% of the users work for the cops. So the cops can still have access to this. And the last part is it would require all ranges to all users to present government ID, and ranges must
Papers,
maintain a
please.
log of name, phone number, address, and if you're a cop, where you work for. So it essentially would make it where most indoor shooting ranges would have to close down, and the only people with access would be gun or cops. And so when you say there's no efforts to take away people's Second Amendment rights, just look at what's happening in Virginia. And overall, though, I'm not trying to make arguments for gun per se. To me, what's more interesting is how the sanctuary city kind of model is being used in different ways. So maybe somebody's going to establish a 5G sanctuary city where there's no EMFs allowed in there, or just different ways that people could apply this tactic, and where our communities could reflect local values instead of this
nullify stuff they don't believe in.
Exactly, they're nullifying bad laws.
Freedom cells movement that you were.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just a decentralized way to go about things, and honestly, I feel like, again, that's what the American experiment was supposed to be. It's not supposed to be this one-size-fits-all thing, and there's so many people that have been propagandized to believe that, New York needs to look like Houston, and Colorado needs to look like Virginia or whatever, and we can't have the diversity. That's the beauty of the United States. The United States is going to be less of a fun place if you go every state, and every single state looks the same. Every city looks exactly the same, and it'd probably be a lot dangerous place too. Yeah, you guys keep that.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because like America right now is like turning into like a wall-to-wall shopping mall. Anywhere you go, it's like the same shit. Burlington, sorry.
You're good.
Whatever. Yeah. It's like Burlington Coat Factory, the same.
All the stores you come to love, right?
Yeah, like,
no matter where you go.
Like 50 miles down the road, it's the same thing. You got the same mall, same.
Use it to control people, and that's why they have to put a whole lot in the neighborhoods, because they have to be much closer together, and that it's a very dangerous technology. It's a dangerous frequency. It's harmful to the human body, and we need to stop it. We need to stop 5G.
So, well, we appreciate the call. I want to mention, in case you're not aware, I wasn't aware until earlier today, somebody told us that there's apparently a call for global actions against 5G for those who have that concern that's going to be taking place later this month. But to your point, as far as the military grade aspect, I will say that what we know, and first off, we always welcome conspiracy theorists on the show, but you could just be yourself and talk about whatever. But when it comes to the military grade aspect, what you're specifically referencing is that there is a weapon, a military weapon that was developed by the Department of Defense that uses the same set of frequencies. So, when we're talking electromagnetic spectrum, you have the microwave band, you got the radio wave band, and there's a lot of different things that can operate, and 5G operates in that range. I think it's 300 gigahertz too. I can't remember the other end of it. But we do know for a fact that the military has developed a crowd control weapon that operates in those same frequencies. So I guess the conspiracy around it is that folks worry that installing these towers, which are operating on similar frequencies every 100 to 200 feet around us, which is what it's going to have to do in order for it to operate correctly, that those could at some point be turned on or directed at the people, things like that. Because I have found studies that have talked about you can feel a heating sensation on your body if frequencies are a certain kind of frequency is applied directly for a long enough time. So I will say that there is some truth to that. Now, do we have the documents that prove that that's why 5G is being crammed down our throats? No, we don't have those things. But I am actually releasing a documentary later this month. It's called The 5G Trojan Horse. If you're a long-term listener of us, you probably heard us talk about 5G for the last year or so.
No, I haven't been, no.
Well, we've been researching and investigating it here for a while, and much of what you just said was true. We do want to encourage you to visit.
Let me ask you a larger question before you let me go. Do you believe in the larger conspiracy theory, the Georgia Guidestones theory, that the elites basically want to cull the population by 90% or 95%?
Deep with it today, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, so let's fill in the audience briefly. Georgia Guidestones, for those who pull out your phone, DuckDuckGo that, you can find out Georgia Guidestones are a really mysterious set of stones, as it describes, and they were printed, carved, whatever, in multiple, I think 10 different languages, and they describe different aspects of how whoever made them, and that's the other thing. It's a mystery who made them. We don't really know who made them.
The man who contracted was a man named R.C.
Yeah, exactly. Which Rosicrucians.
A lot of the admonitions on the 5G on the Georgia Guidestones seem like they come after an apocalyptic event. In other words, there's going to be an apocalyptic event that culls the population, because it says very clearly on there, live in harmony with nature, and it's
reduce the world's population
under 500 million.
Yeah.
If you do the math, that's a 95% decrease.
So, but the Georgia Guidestones, the theories are that whoever made them, this is their, premonition, their wish of how the world should be run. But as you said, there's kind of a great mystery on who actually put that there and why it's there.
Do they know how old they are?
They've been there for
1980.
Yeah, so pretty recent. It's pretty recent thing. And so if you have never heard of that, you learn something new on Freethinker Radio. Hey, what was your name, man?
My name is Don, and so, all I'm saying is I see all these apocalyptic things happening. 1 billion animals just died in Australia, okay?
Shout out, prayers to Australia.
Fires, okay? So I believe the elites want to cull the population. I think that's planned. I think they've already been slow killing us with vaccines, with fluoride, with GMO. That's a slow kill. They want to speed it up because they don't need us anymore. You see, they needed slave labor during the Industrial Revolution before they mechanized everything. Once everything's automated, they don't need people.
And we're going to have to leave it there right now, brother. We're going to have to leave it there right now. Thank you. Thank you, Don, for that call. And again, we always want to express
Join us again sometime.
We let people call in to express themselves. Micah and I might not necessarily, or Johnny might not necessarily agree with everything said. I didn't necessarily agree with anything that was said there. But we want it to be a home where you to express yourself. So if you want to call in right now and tell us how you think that last guy was crazy, feel free to do so. We don't got much time.
I think we were talking about something off the side a little bit that what he was saying brought to my mind. And that was, we're talking about ways and ideas that people could just become empowered. Like if everybody, this might sound like a simple, dumb one, but if everybody was able to, over 2020, to save a little bit more money, we would all have that money. They wouldn't have that money if you believe in a they, that has all this money and all this power. So if we start individually empowering our community, they are necessarily somewhat disempowered. Money doesn't entirely work that way, but we would at least have that power. So I want to try to figure out ways we can talk about that more on Free Thinker Radio. Things that, like we talk about, get outside the left-right dichotomy, things that would just benefit all humanity, that people could hear and, apply a little bit more. We want to, I think there's a good phrase, the home of the brave and the free. I heard it in some song coming in. Because our show's not really over until then.
All right, I think this is on. All right, guys, if you can hear us, I know the connection's been coming in and out, but we're still in the studio. Micah, me, So Below's over here. And as you can see today with the camera,
HD studio.
It's a little wonky, but we're going to get this down so you can see Johnny and hear him. I know you guys couldn't hear him in there, but he's in there. And here's some music. So sorry for making you sick by throwing you around, but we appreciate you guys listening. And it looks like we're going to keep talking because the next guy hasn't showed up yet. Oh, wait, is that him? Is that him? Johnny's letting somebody in.
Let's hope so.
All right, but until next time, guys, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.